Okay, guys, once again, thanks for coming along this evening. I know today was a little bit last notice. I had a little bit of an issue getting a candidate for tonight, so I've worked through that, and we now have a candidate. I'm hoping to have something a little bit special next week, so more news on that hopefully in the next day or two. If I manage to secure what I'm looking to secure next week, it should be a lot of fun and definitely not one to be missed. Not that tonight's is to be missed. None of them are to be missed. So thanks everyone for coming along. So hi and welcome all to this week's edition of Thursday Talk, episode number 14. So we've officially been doing this for over 3 months, almost 4 if you count the 2 that I couldn't do because I was crook. So yeah, this has been really good. For this week's episode of Thursday Talk, we're going to introduce Ryan Smith. Ryan is an RAAus pilot, aircraft owner, and administrator of the WA Aviators and Events Facebook page. Ryan got his pilot certificate back in 2009 and promptly decided to fly around the country. Ryan has a passion for sharing aviation with others and encouraging others to get out there, discover new things, go new places, and meet new people. As always, please like and share this video. And if you have any questions, please add them in the comments and I will endeavour to pass them on if they're suitable. If you're watching via a share on BFDU or PLA or something like that, please make sure you come into the mainstream on the RAOS page so that I get the comments that come in here. And there is a link at the bottom of the description. If you do make a comment, please click that link first. It will give StreamYard permission to see you. And then I can show your comments up on the screen. Otherwise, it comes up as Facebook user. It doesn't actually tell me who it is. If you like this content, would like to see somebody or know somebody you think would be a good subject for this series, please drop me a message and we'll see what we can do about getting them into a chat. Without any further ado, please welcome Ryan.
How you doing, guys? Good to be on the show.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. So, and thanks for coming in on such short notice. You were nominated by another person, which is sometimes how these happen. I ask for people, and someone goes, "Oh, this guy will do it," and then you send them a message, and they're like, "Oh, really? He said that, did he?"
Oh, I'm always up for a chat. So,
yeah, cool. So, who are you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name's Ryan McGrath. I'm from Kitchani, Western Australia. That's about 300 kilometres southeast from Perth. Pretty much, you wouldn't call it in the middle of nowhere, but a lot of people would. For me, it's in the middle of everywhere, which is great when you've got an aircraft. I got my pilot certificate mid-2019, and after that brought a sports star from Wollongong, and at that time I hadn't done my navigational endorsement yet, so I actually flew back to my instructor, who made me fly with a map the whole way back home, which was quite an epic adventure. From then on, I reckon I harassed all my mates until everyone had gone for a fly, and to that, quite frankly, we're getting sick of me, and the novelty of the aircraft was wearing off. I had nowhere to go, and or I wasn't a part of a club or an association that had events on. So I got together with a few other people that flew, and we come up with the idea to create a Facebook page and website called WA Aviators and Events. And from there, it's just grown. I think we have over 600 members on our Facebook page, most of them from Western Australia. And it's amazing to see the effect of what we've created now, where if someone advertises an event or something along the lines, as a simple thing as we're doing a $100 hamburger for the 5th of October for Rottnest, there'll probably be 20, 30 planes show up. So just because it gives people an excuse to get in the air. So my first venture in it is I thought, I'll have a go at hosting a fly-in of my own. I had a lot of help. I met Viv Harris. I don't think there's anyone in WA that doesn't know Viv that's in the aviation community. Very likable bloke. He give his, the shirt off his own back. He's just one of those fellas. He actually flew down, wanted to meet me, help me do what I was doing, and he helped me plan the Catania flying. So we got a lot of historical buildings here, and over in Western Australia, you have what's called Dome. It's like a breakfast restaurant, and the CEO of it buys heritage buildings, brings them back up to where they should be, and turns them into a restaurant. In Catania here was his first dive into doing a hotel. It's a 5-star hotel. It's got a bar at the bottom. It's bloody beautiful. It's the old flour mill originally from when the town was founded, so it's quite a large building. And we had that for our basis for our flying. And we basically planned it and tried to advertise it the best we could. And we thought, if we get 10 planes, it'd be fantastic. On the day, we had 61 planes. I couldn't fit everyone at the airport. They were lining up on the strip. So from then, it's just grown. We've got more and more interest, more and more people getting involved, people such as myself that are really keen. And, anyone that's interested in flying, it's like, mate, let's go for a fly. I'll take you for a fly. Just try and get more people in the air. And so with that, I've discovered a lot of amazing people. There's heaps of amazing places to fly to in Western Australia. We don't quite have the terrain as over east, but it's still just as beautiful. There's plenty of places. A shout out to Gary, Andrew, and Mary at White Gum Farm and White Gum Aviation. They're out in New York, and they've got an air park, and it's fantastic. It's a caravan park. It's a full drive adventure park. They've got gyrocopters there, flying school, and there's heaps of these magnificent places all around WA. And that's what we do. We try and promote everyone else's event as well as host events ourselves. So with the effect of us doing this, a lot of other clubs have kind of stepped into gear and thought, if these guys are doing this and they had this turnout, maybe we should give it a go, which they have done. So last year was quite a busy year. I think I did 150 hours in the air. And even this year was going to be bigger until COVID happened, unfortunately, and restrictions were put in place. But a lot of those events that were cancelled are now getting rescheduled for the end of the year. Some very interesting ones. So that's the basis of how it started, and it's just gone on from there. So.
Yeah, cool. So we might pedal back a little bit. So we've talked about you, talked about where you're based. Tell us how you got involved with aviation. So where did it start for you?
Since the day I learned about planes. I think my mum's still got a picture of me in kindergarten, and they had a station set up with a pilot hat, and I lived there. That's where I was every day. So it's something I've always been passionate about. Many years ago, my old man went for a trial flight in a Cessna, and I was in the back of it and flew over the MCG in Melbourne. And I've never forgotten it. I thought I've always wanted to do it. I actually hit the place where I was working. I actually hit my long service leave there quite a few years ago. And 100 k's north of me is the Narrogin Gliding Club. I think at the time it was the biggest gliding club in Western Australia. Great bunch of people, fantastic. Anyone rocks up there, they'll try and get you in a glider. Awesome time. So I actually did the intro to gliding, spent a week gliding and stayed there, and that was a fantastic experience. It's something that I'd love to go do more of, but I find it's a day thing or a weekend thing where, you're not just flying, you're launching, so for me in my life at the moment, I'm pretty time poor. So it's something I want to do later on in life, but it just didn't happen. And someone put me on to a bloke called Will Owen. He's a top bloke. He's a flying instructor for anyone that's interested in Western Australia. He's Jingalup based, which is just west of Kojonup. And he's got his strip and flying school set up at his farm. He actually hosts a hangar party. He had one just recently there where, yet again, heaps of people show up. It's a bloody good night. You can camp out. So basically started my pilot certificate and there in, I think, late 2018 and finished it. I think I did an hour or 2 hours every week, whatever I could get in, or, whatever the wife would allow without me getting in too much trouble. And yeah, basically just did overtime, and it got to a point where I was nearly hiring Will's plane once a fortnight, and it was getting pretty costly. And the wife said, "Crying out loud, just buy your own plane." So yeah, I hunted around for a while, and I learned in a Sports Star. I got because of basically what I do and the people I meet, I get an opportunity to fly all different things. But I just never found something I quite liked as much as the Sports Star. It was an all-rounder. You can get it in and out of everywhere. She does 100 knots. Yeah, it suits my needs. And yeah, so that was in Wollongong in Sydney. So I got Will to come over because I didn't have my navigation, and yeah, we flew across the bottom of Australia. It was freaking awesome. Unfortunately, when we got the aircraft, the prop wasn't set up right. We were too slow. We had headwinds the whole way. We were about 1,500 feet, middle of summer, but it was just an awesome experience. It was tiring as anything. We landed at Porter Village and the avgas pump didn't work, and we had a backup 10 litre, and from where the avgas pump is to the servo is a fair walk. So I had to do that about 6 times in the middle of summer, and I reckon it was 38 degrees heat. And yeah, but all part of the adventure. It was awesome. I'd love to do it again. Yeah, and then basically got home and I'm 5 minutes, small country town. The strip's 10 k's out. Hardly any. There's 3 other planes at the strip. Hardly anyone there. You got the whole place to yourself. So it's got a cross runway, gravel 3113, and a bitumen 1,500 metre 0725, which best strip about. So with the RSDF come in a couple of times a week, obviously having the main hospital about, but yeah, sometimes you feel like you got the place to yourself, which is fantastic. So yeah, so from there.
All right. So I was going to ask how you got involved with RAAus, but I'm guessing the short answer to that is someone put you onto an RAAus instructor.
Yep. In short, someone at the gliding club there. I had made inquiries to do it in Perth and stuff like that, but it was, for me, it was to travel. It was to go obviously anything under CASA, fly Cessnas and training them is a lot more expensive than RAAus. So RAAus was the affordable thing for me at the time to do, which even now, I speak now, to run a Sports Star is relatively cheap. The costs of things are a lot lower. And, like I'm L1 certified, trying to get my L2. So I maintain most of my own aircraft. So all those things just kind of fit in perfectly where the sport's really affordable. And I really try and push that idea on. A lot of people have this general consensus that aviation is crazy expensive. I got a mate that spends more on his ski boat than I do on a plane. So anyway.
It's amazing how easy it is to spend 50 grand over 5 years on a hobby, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, definitely. They regularly come down at Wage, and they've got this club and they've got all remote control jets. And one bloke's got a 747 replica he built. It was on the news. That thing's worth more than my aircraft. So, it's a remote control plane. But, it's each to their own, and that's what people like. And I love to fly. So, anyway.
Yeah, cool. So, tell us about your first solo.
I was probably 7 hours into it, and I landed the aircraft, and Will said to me, my aircraft turned the plane around and taxied up back at the start of the strip and cracked the canopy open, jumped out, and he said, I'll see you in a minute. And that was it. Yeah, he's got he's a really good instructor, good sense of humour and stuff, and nervous as anything. It took off fine. The difference in weight in the aircraft straight away, you'll notice it. Had been, learned that. And I just remember flying the circuit, just looking up, checking everything a million times. Is that right? Is that right? Have I done this? not quite panicking, but just making sure that I was doing everything right. So, yeah, that was my first solo, and yeah, just I suppose it made my week. I was excited as anything. So,
At what point did you have the oh wow, I'm on my own?
I don't think that kicked in my head till I was back on the ground, because I was just I was more worried about what was going on, but it wasn't until I suppose the second time I went solo that I thought, oh, I'm up here by myself. I'm doing this, and yeah, no, just amazing feeling. Like, I don't think those who have done it know it, but it's hard to describe to anyone else. So
yeah, that's it. So tell us a little bit more about your first plane. You said, you went over to Wollongong to pick it up, and the prop was set up wrong and low level, and well, not quite low level, but not very high flight back. Tell us a little bit more about how that came to be, and why you chose that particular aircraft, and who chooses to do a nav from one side of the country to the other. I mean,
oh yeah, me. No, when at the time I looked around for an aircraft, and it was kind of hard to find one that was in my price range that I liked, and I come across this one. It was on a second engine, but the engine in it had only done about 600 hours, so it still had plenty of life in it. It belonged to a flying school, so she was a bit rough around the edges, but there's a lot of just how she looks. But I'm a spray painter panel beater by trade, so that's nothing to me. I've already spoke to Aviators and RAAus about giving her a coat of paint, and I've got to get it in writing, but they've got their ticker of approval, so we'll pretty it up. But yeah, so it just seemed like a really good buy at the time, and went with that. And then it was just a matter of it after putting down the deposit without seeing it, because basically on the other side of Australia, it was then I had to wait on Will. So Will, who's the flying instructor, was a farmer, so he obviously has cropping programs and stuff like that, which is all fair. That's all part of life and whatnot. I was just glad he was able to accompany me to get it back. And when the time was right, we flew over and we got a late flight, and I think we probably got about 5 hours sleep, caught train after train, finally got down to the airport, and the bloke who had the plane thought we were coming a couple of days after we were there. It was just because the bloke I bought it off was leasing it to the flying school, so we had a little bit of drama. And when we finally got going, how the prop was set on the aircraft is you'd go best rate of climb, and the engine would redline. There wasn't enough load on the prop because the pitch was set wrong. So yeah, you just couldn't get maximum potential out of it. We were doing probably 70, 75 knots most of the way, and didn't have tremendous headwinds, but we were a pretty low trip.
But to be fair, at 75 knots, a 10-knot headwind is like staunch speeds.
Devastating. So, it doesn't bother me too much, but my instructor's plane's got a 120 litre tank. I've only got a 65 litre. So well, for me, you've got about 2.5 endurance plus reserve, which for me, you can pretty much fly most of everywhere. It doesn't really bother me too much. That was probably the only down point on buying the aircraft. But with that, you had to plan properly. So there were quite a few more stops than what you would have expected. But yeah, that was all the fun. I think we made it to Wentworth near Mildura the first night, and got up the next day at 6 and chased the sun the whole day right across the Great Australian Bight. So yeah, took us about 3 days to get home. But yeah, just an awesome adventure. We pretty much just go, just trying to make good time and get home with what speed we could get. So that was the gist of it. So yeah.
Yeah, I think there's probably a takeaway there in the value of forming a good relationship with your instructor. I had a very similar thing with my instructor. We literally pulled my aircraft out of a barn, but that barn was 10 hours drive away. And, you get the right instructor, you form a friendship. He'll be quite happy to go that distance and help you pull this thing out of the barn that you look at and you scratch your head and you go, you're going to do what with this now? And then bring it home. So, I think it's really good to really important, I think, to find that.
Yeah, no, look, he's a great bloke, and if I call him up right now and have some questions, and that he's always at the other end of the phone offering some advice. So, yeah, anyone in the area that's interested, he will fly higher is the flying school. It's on the RAAus website. Check it out. It's the top bloke, and you'll learn to fly.
Yeah, cool. What we'll do is I'll definitely find those. I'll just take a note now, so that I can share instructor, and we'll share that, and we'll share the Facebook page. Speaking of which, do you want to? You sort of brushed over what you were doing with the Facebook group. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about how it started, and if people are in the area and they're not familiar with it, how do they get involved? What sort of things are you looking to do?
Yeah, so basically how it started out is I suppose compared to most people I meet, I'm 32. When I started, I was 30, and a few people I spoke to, I said, "Does anyone use social network? To try and get all the clubs on the same page?" And everyone was kind of doing their own thing. So that's how it kind of started. I said, "I'll start a Facebook page and we'll just see how it goes." So at that time, I actually didn't know about bush flyers down under or most other ones. Like I suppose I'd had a look, but not a good look. There's another West Australian page. It's a really good one called Perth Pilots, but it's primarily Perth based for out of Jandakot and stuff like that. Where I wanted for Western Australia, like what's going on in our state and where can you fly to. It started from there, and I suppose what really promoted it was the Kitani flying. So Arthur Todd, who's the man behind the scenes, he's retired. He creates and designs websites. And Arthur said one day I was talking to him about it, he goes, "This is fantastic." He was a journalist for many years, and he goes, "I'll happily build you a website for it." And because a lot of the older generation doesn't have Facebook. Saying that, a lot of people I know have got Facebook to keep up with WA Aviators, which is awesome to know, generating that interest. But so we had a website, and Arthur is amazing at doing up flyers and designs and all kinds of stuff. So when he did this flyer, we just advertised it everywhere, sent it to every club. Viv Harris, who I was talking about earlier, he is the captain at Serpentine. Serpentine is Sports Aircraft Building Association. I've probably got that wrong. I'll get in trouble later. And they've been operating, I think, since the 60s. So there's over 100 odd hangars there, planes being built left, right and centre, like it's heaven for most people. With Viv on board and everyone knows Viv, and he put it out there, and basically, as I said, we had our Kitani flying, and we were hoping for 10 planes would be a success, and we got 61. So it was we're a bit overwhelmed if I'm honest. So and then it just
get a few more snags for the barbecue, hey?
Yeah, well, what we did is we went to Dome for lunch. So they do this one here does a dinner menu, and it's a bit different from the rest. And I was able to, I should probably mention, the Shire of Kitani got behind and supported it. Shout out to the old man, he's a Shire councillor here, as well as the local Rotary Club of Kitani. We're not a corporation, we're not an association, we're a Facebook group. So the Shire was nice enough to donate $300 towards costs, but it needs to be to an organisation. So on top of that, Rotary was happy to accept those funds, pay bills, and furthermore donate another $200. So the money was used for venue hire of Dome and for hiring of the buses. So a mate of mine's got a school bus run, and he was nice enough to do it at cost. And we had two 48-seater buses just ferrying people from the airport back and forth and all over town. So we had people come from Geraldton, everywhere. Like, it was fantastic. So
at what point did you realise you were getting more than 10 aircraft?
I reckon we got a few rock up, and it hit 11 o'clock, and then we probably got 10 and 15, and then it hit lunchtime, and the circuit was crazy. Like, one of the pilots was telling me they had Melbourne Centre on the phone going, what the hell's going on over there? Like, that many planes. And, so there was, I suppose not mistakes, but things to learn from this year. We're going to try and maybe have allotted times for people. So all the aircraft coming at once, and you got 10 or 20 planes trying to join the circuit at once, and some are Barons and some are Savannahs, and I think we even had a Mirage there. Like, it's a bit chaotic. And unfortunately, the wind that day was 07. And the taxiway ends at the start of 07, so everyone had to backtrack to get onto the main apron. So all you could hear is, please expedite your exit. No harm done. Very successful day. With that, anyone in Western Australia, if they haven't already seen it advertised, we this year have it for the 10th and 11th of October. The main fly-in's on the 11th, the Sunday. Anyone that comes the night before, there's accommodation organised. It's fairly cheap, and we'll be putting on a dinner at the local country club. If you do come and stay overnight, it's going to be a fantastic night. But Arthur, who does a website, he's also, you'd almost call him a local historian. He does what's called Lost Katanning, all about the history of Katanning, and he's using the buses to do tours of Katanning. So it should be a fantastic weekend for anyone that wants to come. On that note, I should probably make mention of a few upcoming events for other people. West Fly, which is at White Gum Air Park and White Gum Farm. I think that's September 19 and 20th. Serpentine Builders Club has their fly-in. I think that's late October. And there's plenty of other stuff going on too. You just need to check out the website or the Facebook page. It's fantastic. Like, I think towards the end of the year, there's nearly something every weekend if you want to fly. So,
yeah, cool. All right. Well, let's talk about your favourite aircraft to fly. You haven't mentioned if you've flown anything other than the Sportstar. How many other aircraft have you flown?
Quite a few now. I even got to go up in the Cirrus out of Jandakot, thanks to a good friend that's got one there. That was pretty interesting. Amazing bit of gear, but I don't know. Probably the most interesting plane I've been in is there's a bloke called Peter Hambury. He's down Niangara way. He's actually a Lamey, and he's got a Hornet stall. And we went for a fly on this, and it is not a fast aircraft, but it is just fun. Like, you won't be going anywhere, but you can get anywhere. So,
yeah.
That was probably the most interesting aircraft for me. But as I said before, I've been in quite a few vans now and stuff. And, they're pretty quick, but I like the ability that I got mates that have got decent paddocks that, they land on, and you can go in and out of there, no issue. So I suppose until I find one better, I'm quite happy with the Sportstar. So
cool. And if you could fly anything at all, absolutely anything out there, what would it be?
I would love at the moment. So I've been helping a mate build a Bushcat at the moment, but probably the only other aircraft I'm really keen on giving a crack is a Highlander or a Kit Fox or something like that. That's something that I'd love to have a crack at building later on. More leaning towards the Highlander. I'd love to just have a go, give it a go. So I don't know, anyone out there that's happy to take me for a ride, I'm all ears. But anyway, I suppose I'm not about going fast. I just enjoy the journey. So
yeah. And I'll do a quick plug. Anyone who's interested in the Super Stol, you said it was the Hornet, wasn't it? The Stol Hornet.
yeah,
That's the Australian aircraft kits.
yeah.
So one of my very early interviews was actually with Ollie from Australian Aircraft Kits. So if anybody's interested in seeing an interview with Ollie, go back through the backlog of the videos in the group, and you can see me have a chat with Ollie about his aircraft. So moving along, how has COVID-19 affected your flying?
Greatly. I reckon this year I've probably done about 30 hours compared to last year.
Only 30.
When for our zones, we had quite large restricted areas. So I've got 3 young kids, and my mum's farm's down at Barker. Amazing mum is nice enough to babysit for school holidays. So she normally has one at a time. So I was still flying them to and from the farm, and I could still occasionally, I suppose, get up, and I still had quite a large area. So we pretty much fell within the Albany area. So you pretty much fly down to Albany and stuff like that. I suppose at the time you're not meant to be flying unless you got a reason, but most of the time I was ferrying kids. So, but from a flying and aviator side and that, everything was cancelled. Like just everything, put everything to a halt, and it all stopped. And it only kind of probably kicked into gear a month ago, where we did a $100 hamburger to the White Gum Farm, and probably got about 20 aircraft. But I know there's a lot of people still dying to get in the air and looking for a good excuse. So yeah, it completely put a hold to everything. So and I mean, it's I suppose if you look at Victoria at the moment, it's still a bit concerning with how it's going to go. So you never know. Fingers crossed.
Certainly an evolving situation. So where do you see the future of RAAus?
I would love them, I suppose, to stay on their current path. I probably don't get involved in the political side of things, but I'd love to see the weight increase and down the track controlled airspace. I think that'd be awesome. But I went to the RAAus forum and stuff like that. I'd like my biggest thing with RAAus in the future is I'd like to see them have be a bit more involved in Western Australia. I don't think, because everything is primarily over there, so it'd be nice to see in the future them have more of a presence over here, and I'm trying to always get young people involved in flying and whatnot. So yeah, I suppose if they keep on the track, and yeah, we'll just see. So
cool. So you've been flying for a little while. I'm assuming you've met some pretty interesting characters. Have you got a funny story that you'd like to talk about? I will apologise to the viewers. I will apologise to the viewers. I've put Ryan a little bit on the spot here. Because I brought Ryan in fairly late, I didn't get the opportunity to send Ryan my question list beforehand. So he's taking all of these questions completely unprepared. So yeah, a funny story.
Yeah, I honestly, off the top of my head, I probably don't have one for flying. Nothing that pops into my head, mate, unfortunately, not to disappoint the viewers, but I don't think most things that's happened has been enjoyable. It hasn't been too funny, but I probably a funny thing, I suppose, for other people was a bit discomforting for me is quite a few of us flew out to Lake Perkalilly races in north of Kalgoorlie there. It's a 5.1 kilometre dried up lake bed in the middle of nowhere, and they've got a airstrip in the middle that they got the weight shift trikes, and I think they're the Goldfield Dust Devils, and it's just fun. It was like 1940s and older competing, and there's, I think, one bloke from the UK imported a Lagonda. Cost him big money to get over here, and he blew the engine on the first lap. So it was the Variety Club, had a bar set up. Like, it was an awesome weekend. I think they only do it every 5 years. Next time it's on, if anyone you can, just go out. We camped out in the bush for 3 days, and like they set up facilities for you. But the night before we left, my mate that took his on the mines and loves the good old export, and he kept buying rounds, and I kept giving them back to him because I said, mate, we're flying in the morning, and he's not a pilot, he's just long for the ride. So I had an easy night. You're flying in the morning, you just want a level head, and I reckon we got 30 mile out of Kalgoorlie, and he's reaching in the back and he's grabbed one of my cooking trays and just thrown up.
Oh no.
And we're just in the middle of absolute nowhere, and I just was sitting there, just trying not to throw up myself. I'm sure it's funny now when I think back, but unfortunately, so he was quite crook. We had nowhere to land. We had weather heading straight for us. We ended up going that far west that we ended up in Southern Cross, and then had to walk 3 or 4 kilometres into town to get fuel. Like, it was just went from bad to worse. But we got home. But no, it's it's a good laugh to everyone else. It was a pretty uncomfortable situation.
So what's the lesson? To keep a sick bag in the aircraft?
Oh, I do now. Yeah, many. So, I was just lucky you found one of the cook tins we had there, because it would have been a messy disaster. But anyway, bit of a funny one for other people, I suppose. But,
so, what are some of the biggest lessons you've learned?
I suppose always check the weather and just be. I suppose you really got to read things. Twice now I've been caught out where it's been a beautiful morning, but the sun had come up, we had light and that, and you get that dew point and it changes, and the basically fog's just overtaken everything. So it gets where I am, it gets quite hot and it gets quite cold. So we have a couple of weeks a year where it gets down into -1 or 2 and get quite frosted. And in 2 situations I've been in now where everything was fine when I took off. There's no OHLing, and by the time I realised that, okay, I'm not getting out of here. The area that I'm in is clear. The airport itself had fogged over, so we were able to divert to Dumbleyung, which isn't too far away. But then you're obviously stuck on the ground waiting for it to clear for quite a while. So it didn't. We still had still visual flight rules, everything like that. We just couldn't get where we were going. So that's I suppose one of the lessons that stuck keen in my mind. Just be really mindful of that. So
yeah, cool. We get interesting fog here. We have a similar. It probably doesn't get as hot here as it does over there, but we're going through that period at the moment where it gets cold. But we live in a little pocket where you go 20 nautical miles northwest and it'll be clear as anything. But then we have days where it'll be clear there, but it'll be fogged in until 12:30, 1 o'clock in the afternoon here. So we get freaky fogs. And at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, you can see from ages. As soon as the sun comes up, it fogs over, and that's the end of that.
Yeah, and that's what happens here. So a few times, well, twice now. It's quite amazing where I am. There's airstrips everywhere. So, and it's perfectly flat grounded everywhere. Plenty of paddocks to land. If you need to do a precautionary landing. So.
Cool. And I'm conscious of the fact that you are on a little bit of a time crunch this evening, which is why I'm sort of pushing along a bit shorter than we usually run. But what advice would you have for young or aspiring pilots out there?
Do what you can to get into it. If you know someone that's got a plane, and just nag them, go for a fly. Or it's not as expensive as what people think. I think back to when I was an apprentice. I lived at home still when I was when I'm my first year apprentice, so had that disposable income. I could have had my pilot certificate back then, if I wanted to, because it's not as expensive as what people think. You don't know till you try. So for anyone out there that's given it one thought, go to a trial introduction flight. You don't like it, cool bananas. But if you do, find a way to do it, because you won't regret it.
Cool. All right. I do have one more question, but before I ask that, I'm just going to have a quick little talk about something I did today on the group. The logo was decided last week, and a little bit of a controversial decision. I'm still working on something for the logo that actually got the most votes, so keep an eye out on the page for the next week or so. I should have something coming out there shortly. I posted up some merch today. So with the two variants of the logo that ultimately got selected or chosen second place, essentially, I've created a bunch of merch. So there's t-shirts, there's mugs, there's stickers, there's badges, there's quite a few options up there on Redbubble. Usually people sell things on Redbubble with a profit margin. I have turned them all down to zero. So there is no profit. There's nothing in it for me. If you purchase one of those items, I want to offer those to the community for as little cost as possible. I have ordered a t-shirt and a mug, so I'm hoping they will be here sometime next week, and I can show them to everybody on the stream on Thursday night next week. So yeah, if you want some merch, jump on there. I don't have a version with the Facebook URL on it yet, but I've spoken to Ben tonight, and we're probably going to organize that as well. So if you're interested in a t-shirt or a mug, or there's bags, there's a few other bits and pieces, get onto it. So very last question, and most of our viewers are probably know what's coming now. What do you think of flying naked?
Not one I've probably honestly thought about, but I imagine that'd be quite uncomfortable. I don't know. It's not something that's crossed my mind, or I'd imagine if you had to make a precautionary landing somewhere public, it might be quite embarrassing. But each to their own. Go for it, but not for me. Thanks, mate.
No worries. All right. Look, thanks once again, Ryan, for coming in. I've got a couple more people who've recommended a few other people to get in on some interviews. As I said, I'm working on something for next week, which should be should be a little bit special, a little bit of a change from our regular programming. So, look, once again, thanks for coming in on short notice. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks for your time, everyone. It's been a privilege. So, cheers.
Cool. All right, and as always, may you always have runway in front of you, air under your wings, fuel in your tanks, and until next time, cheers.